You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Doge, and more. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity, provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments throughout the world's leading crypto derivatives markets. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of crypto derivatives. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is time for a little program we call around these parts the Crypto Rundown. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the THE optionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks are mainlining out there these days. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you're ready and raring to go. Another hot trading week out here on the crypto front. Remember, you like what you hear this show, anything else on the network, and all you crypto folks should be listening to the full network. A lot of great content coming at you these days, including a lot of great educational content, which I know for a lot of you who are, shall we say, crypto native, educational content, certainly very valuable. Options Bootcamp, the strategy block segment of the option block, all sorts of fun, OPR archives, a lot of great content waiting there for you. So make sure wherever you're getting this, head on over to your platform of choice and subscribe to the full network. It's going to serve you well as you continue your options journey. Of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you want to join us tomorrow, where our buddy Scott Nation is going to be tackling all your questions fresh back from the Jeopardy hot seat. Now tackling your questions on our hot seat. Head on over to theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Options oddities every week. Giveaways, all sorts of fun. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. As we learn who's joining us in the old hot seat this week, I'm pleased to welcome back our old friend, Mr. Bill himself, a.k.a. Bill Ulivieri from Cenacle Capital Management. Mr. Bill, welcome back to the show, sir.
Great to be back, Mark. Great to be back. It is always a pleasure being on the show.
All right, then. Let's dive right on into a little bit of the old Bitcoin breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, listeners, to the Bitcoin Breakdown we go. Of course, a portion of the show we break down all the action in the world's leading digital asset, talking about the big dog, which is Bitcoin, and a little bit smaller this week than it was this time last week. Last week, 63,371 coming into the start of the show today, 62,879, down almost 500 handles from where we were this time last week, 492 to be precise. Of course, we got a little closer to threatening the 60K level. That came last Friday, 60,782 in that range to the dark side. And the high pretty much coming in the start of the show today. So we're hanging out. At least I should say the high was on the show last week. So 63,371 on the show last week. So an intriguing range out there on the week. Mr. Bill, before I get into the vol and all that fun, catch us up, sir. What caught your eye out there in the Bitcoin market this week?
Well, I think, Mark, so many people were hyper-focused on the halving that happened in Bitcoin. I mean, first it was the Bitcoin ETFs were approved, I think on January 11th of this year. And then we had the recent Bitcoin halving where the block reward. So every 10 minutes when a issuance of Bitcoin is distributed to the network, kind of like when you're playing Monopoly and you pass go and $200 gets thrown into the free parking center of the board, or each player who passes go gets 200. Every miner or miner pool, I should say, collects a reward of Bitcoin every 10 minutes. And so there was so much expectation. It was kind of one of those like buy the rumor, sell the news things where, Bitcoin had rallied up into the high 60,000s, low 70,000s, and, pulled back right now, according to my chart, on a percentage chart down to like 58,900. Once again, Bitcoin always seeks to obfuscate the things that we believe to be true about this crazy nascent technology.
Yeah, the halving, you're right. Everyone, last time we chatted, of course, everyone was fixated on it. We saw this play out with ETH, with the merge. Everyone was fixated on it. We saw a lot of options paper positioning going into it. Coming out of it, it was kind of a bit of a whimper. It didn't really deliver maybe on the volatility or movement or other front a lot of people were betting on the options side. Here we are now post-halving, Bill. I will put it to you. Were we all too focused on the halving? From your description, I'm going to read between the lines there and kind of sound like maybe it was a little bit of a non-event for you as well. What are your thoughts? Were we all too focused on the halving, sir? Did it not really deliver?
Well, I think you're probably going to kill me for saying this, but we saw this on the trading floor. And that is when, a stock would rally going into earnings, and then the earnings would come out and they were in line or even better than expected. The stock would decline. And, when we were on a trading floor, we would call that, back then, if that term FOMO existed, we would be using that. So there seemed to be the contrarian play whenever news would come out. We would kind of call it retail money versus institutional money. So the retail money was perhaps less savvy. I don't want to say they're stupid. I'm just saying that they're less savvy, perhaps, and are more prone to being manipulated by the emotions and the news media. So I think really what happened was there was just so much pumping in the big world of Bitcoin that maybe the retail, quote unquote, retail clients were maybe gotten a little ahead of themselves on a technical basis. I still think that the proposition for Bitcoin is still, still there. It's still relevant. It's still in play. But I think we just took a little bit of a breather in that rally.
A little bit of a breather indeed. Let's see how that breather is impacting the vol and the skew, shall we, listeners? Of course, all this data brought to you by our friends over there at Amber Data. AmberData.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. If you did that, listeners, you'd see that starting near term and working our way out, the vol is kind of treading water this week. In the 7-day vol, the weekly vol, it's literally unched. It was a 51 last week, 51 coming into the start of the show this week, so no evolution there. Going out to a more standardized vol metric 30 days, it was a 55 on the show last week. Close to that level, coming in a little bit, though, 53.5 this week. Still, if you're going to compare it to most other asset classes that we're going to talk about, go listen to our TWIFO show, listener, This Week in Futures Options. We talk about the entire gamut of asset classes there. FX, ags, equities, metals, you name it. It's all there on the show. You're going to be hard-pressed to find anything that can even threaten a 55. You're going to have to look to nat gas and a few other components. It's really nat gas and crypto are the two things that are really leading the way from a vol perspective. Certainly it's not equity vol. We all know where VIX is hanging out right now. So Vol across the board is anemic. In fact, another plug for that show. You should be checking it out if you're listening to this show, listeners. We talked about it on the show last week. Over the last 12 months, only 2 asset classes are actually above their 12-month moving average from a vol perspective. That was metals and it was ags. And ags are a very seasonal product, so that movement out there is kind of suspect. It's very near term. You take ags out of the equation, really metals are the only one that are above their now I should say with the caveat, they don't run a vol metric for Bitcoin. I'm sure if we put that into the mix, that one probably would be up as well. So they don't run crypto a C-vol. That's what they call their vol products. They don't run a C-vol index for crypto. I'm sure if you ran the at-the-money vol, though, over the past 12 months, I would have to wager it is higher. But intriguing stuff nonetheless. So again, going to show you right now, crypto, even though the vol is coming in a little bit, is still one of the few bastions of volatility you can really find out there. Going out a little bit farther, 6 months, the vol, again, almost literally on 61.5 last week, 61.25 this week. You know, Bill, it's an interesting point out there about, in general, vol is down across the board. 2024 so far seems like the year vol is going to die. Crypto vol, though, is still fairly frothy. It's off its highs as well. 55, it's certainly not 100. We've seen Bitcoin north of 100 in the past, but it's also not back in the mid-20s it was not too long ago as well. What are your thoughts on just about every asset class on the planet? They're coming for vol, with maybe the exception of crypto, sir. Maybe crypto, the last bastion for vol traders, sir. Crypto and nat gas.
Well, you know, I think this is the calm before the storm. I mean, we still have a lot of things going on. We have, you know, short-term rates still really high. You know, you might remember this. I know I do. But back before the Great Recession in 2007, 2008, there was a statement. I don't remember who made it. It was somebody from Bear Stearns. I'm pretty sure. Like 12 months before they blew up, was like, volatility is dead. It's never going up again. And I remember we were watching the news media and we all looked at each other. Like we all stopped, you know, and we looked at each other. We're like, okay, we got to start paying attention to what's going on in volatility, right? And so, yes, natural gas has been very, very bumpy. You know, we have, for our clients, we have a small position in UNL, which is the an equal weighted natural gas ETF. But let me tell you, you know, we've been punished by holding that one. You know, after the war broke out and UNL and natural gas just skyrocketed like every other commodity up to around $29 a share in the UNL symbol. Now it's trading like 8, right? And so we didn't buy it up there. I mean, we sold it and then we ended up buying it back in again around somewhere between 13 and 11, I'd say. But we're rebalancing down here. Interesting pairs trade. You know, actually, when you look at our ledger, it's probably like selling Bitcoin and buying natural gas, which is the craziest pairs trade ever. But it's really just part of the rebalancing feature that we need to stay ahead of as advisors. But back to the volatility question, you know, it's just that calm before the storm, Mark. I think we are really going to see some big waves coming up in the next half of the year.
A pretty gutsy pairs trader, crypto and nat gas.
Right?
You gotta really want it there. You got two pretty active sides of the pairs trade there. So yeah, I want to meet the nat gas and Bitcoin pairs traders. Those are, shall we say, a steel-hearted bunch out there. As we keep on rolling, let's go check out the skew, listeners. What's it showing us out there right now? Let's see. Last week, the weekly skew was a +2, so things were looking a little bit optimistic, but ever so slightly. This week, they've slung a little bit to the dark side, -1. Again, 3 points, not the end of the world out there. A -1, not the end of the world. I would kind of term that as flat right now. The weekly options, kind of waiting for the next shoe to drop out there. Let's go out a month, and we were a +2 this time last week. This week, a positive about a third even, so not even a full point. So I would call that flat as well. So vol and skew, it seems like, coming in a little bit out here this week, but not a ton. Going out a little bit farther, going out 6 months, we were at a +5, so they were liking themselves a little bit of upside this time last week. This week they still do, but a little bit less, a 3.9 to be precise out there. So skew kind of coming in across the board, which again, given this movement we're seeing out there, not exactly surprising. Let's see if there are any surprises lurking in some of the popular Bitcoin options you folks like to sling in your securities account. By the way, Bill, you mentioned the Bitcoin ETFs. I want you to mull those over for a bit. We're going to come back to those later on in the show. So start thinking about the Bitcoin ETFs that were approved earlier this year and perhaps the options or lack thereof on them. I'll just give you a hint. We're going to dive into that in a little bit. But right now, listeners, coming into the ETFs, you can trade options on out there. Let's go out to BITO first. 25.40 when we kicked off the show, down about 0.2 of a point. It's actually moved up to about 25.60 right now, up 0.2 of a point. So it's effectively unched on the week. So BITO pretty much treading water out there. Let's see. In terms of ADV, it's at about a 99. So right a tick below 100K. That's down about 8,000 this time last week, but still pretty frothy. Putting up about 57,000 contracts today. So it doesn't seem like we're going to hit it today. Not that much time left in the session. And across the board, we just came off the option block show, listeners. Volume was pretty light across the board out there today. It's not exactly a banger start to the week. In terms of vol, keeping pace out there as well. The vol is a 55, down 7 points. So vol seems like it's coming in. Again, it is that early start to the summer session. So folks like to let a little vol go this time of year. Maybe we're starting to see some of that play out right now as well. In terms of positions out there, we're still 5-0 calls over puts in the top 5 out there. The big dog, still the Jan 30s, 107, almost 108 of those bad boys out there. Let's move on to Mara, another hot one out there. 17.10 when we kicked off the show, down almost 3.5 points, 340 from our show last week. This thing whips all over the place, listen, which explains why the vol has come in 26 points, but it's still an 89. That shows how much vol it had to give. An 89 vol, you're going to be hard-pressed to find many assets at that level. In terms of level ADV right now, 244. It's actually ticking back up. It's up about 16,000 from this time last week. So Mara starting to get a little bit of resurgence. Of course, it was north of 20 last week, so that also helped add a little volume to the mix out there. In terms of the volume today, what are we seeing? Well, we're seeing a little bit of paper, about 179,000. Again, not much time left in the show. So it doesn't seem like we're going to hit it out there as well. In terms of top positions, there was one put to be found in the top 5 last week. That is now gone. We are all calls all the time, listeners. 32, almost 33,000 of the June 30s, 3-0s, leading the dance out there this week. So 30s. If past is prologue, folks are probably buying those, listeners. And that's an optimistic level. Again, we were just north of 20 not too long ago. Let's go look and see if we can find what they were up to with those 30s really quick. Look like they started buying them all the way back in January of this year. Let's see, what price did they trade for? They traded for $1.50 back on January 19th. They traded 6,600 of them. The total of 33,000 almost open on the strike right now. So $1.50 for the 30s. We're closing in on, we're not quite at June expiration yet, but we're getting there. So you know that $1.50 kind of going the way of the dodo out there right now. They are trading. Yeah, we'll have to go find out what they were up to out there today. But yeah, in general, you like those, listeners? June 30s, I have to imagine those are, shall we say, a little bit lower right now than they were this time back in January. Mr. Bill, anything catching your eye out there in the big dogs, BITO or Mara, maybe some others out there that you're slinging some options on the crypto front, sir?
So it's really interesting that you brought that up because, again, as you know, I've been very slow to move on the in the option space with the Bitcoin ETFs and the options. And of the 20 ETFs that I'm looking at, and again, you gave me a pop quiz here just about 3 minutes ago, so I'm quickly trying to do a little bit of due diligence here. But of the 20 ETFs I have in my database, 4 of them trade options, at least according to the query, and that would be the BITI, the ProShares short Bitcoin strategy, BITO, the one that we speak about quite frequently, the Bitcoin ETF, BTF, the Valkyrie Bitcoin and Ether strategy ETF, and WGMI. We're gonna make it. WGM. We're gonna make it. WGMI, the Valkyrie Bitcoin Miners ETF. So I think I've been so focused on the token and kind of anti-mining, like the Riot blockchain and Mara. I've been kind of negative that just philosophically because of the up escalator of difficulty and this rat race you have to continue to stay ahead of in terms of buying equipment and staying ahead of the mining game, especially now that the rewards have been cut in half. So I think I will make a promise that I will have more for you on the next episode, because I'm going to dig into this a little bit more, because we've been getting more and more Roth IRAs clients coming in that are degenerate traders just like I am, and they want all in with Bitcoin, the Grayscale products, Pro Shares, the whole thing. That's all they want in their Roth IRA. And of course, we give them the proper disclosures and disclaimers, but these people are, this is just a portion of their assets. So I will make a solemn promise to dig deeper into these options so that we have something to talk about on the next show.
Don't worry, we're not done with the ETFs yet. We're going to come back to it at the last segment. But before we do that, isn't it funny the first mover advantage that BitO got, just being first out the door? You mentioned the Valkyrie. They didn't launch that long after BitO. I think it was a couple of weeks at the most. But the ADV on the options on the Valkyrie ETF, 168. The BitO's over threatening 100,000 right now. So just talk about this. They were the first ones out of the gate. They got all the love. And no one even really knows about the Valkyrie unless you're really hardcore out there. So just shows you what a first mover advantage you can have in certain complexes. Speaking of movers and shakers, let's find out what's going on now in the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, listeners, welcome to the altcoin universe, the portion of the show where we explore everything outside of the big dog, which is Bitcoin, except for right now when we break down the top 10 from a market cap perspective. And I know Bill's just waiting to get to his favorite, toncoin. Hold your horses, Bill. We'll get there. Don't worry. What's holding down the number 10 spot this week, listeners? It is Cardano. Cost you a little bit shy of $16 billion to break into the top 10 this week. 15 3/4. That gets you to our old friend Cardano. A Dogecoin getting knocked down a peg this week. The Doge holder is not going to like that. 21.7 is the market cap for Doge at number 9. What could possibly topple Doge from its perch at number 8? Well, it's Bill's favorite. It's Toncoin, coming in at 25.3 billion worth of market cap. Number 7 is XRP, 28 billion, pretty much even. Number 6, USD coin, 33.1 billion. Number 5, Solana, 66, almost 66.5 billion. Number 4, it's BNB, 87.75 billion. Number 3, it's Tether, 110, almost 111 billion. Number 2, it's E353, and the big dog, Bitcoin, 1.23 trillion worth of market cap. So, Bill, let's just dive right into it. Why do you love Toncoin so much?
Wait, don't put words in my mouth, Mark. I still, listen, I joke around with my son who's 24, and there's Bonk and Toncoin and, more, so many of these little altcoins that are there's just Costco $1.50 hot dog. Okay. And so there's just this crazy cultural movement out there. And it does seem as though the Toncoin has a connection with Telegram, which is a really huge platform. And again, I think the idea behind Ton is to create a connection with everyday users with blockchain, cryptocurrency, and the platform of Telegram, like a social messaging. Again, Toncoin is it's a proof of stake. It's an open network, TON, the open network, and it's a layer 1 smart contract. But again, I kind of get this crossover where it's specialized financial applications as well as fungible and non-fungible tokens. So, there's apparently been over a million non-fungible tokens minted on the Ton network. And so I'm going to need a little bit more work again with this one too, Mark. I'm sorry, I didn't do my homework before I came to class, and I really apologize. But it's hard enough just keeping track of the old guard, like the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge, Cardano, Stellar Lumens, like all the ones that brought us to the game here. Then on top of that, the SEC kind of lighting up again in a negative aspect with Ripple and some of the other cryptocurrencies claiming that they're securities. So, just staying on the up and up of crypto, not even looking at these crazy meme coins. But you know what? They're a cultural phenomenon, and I think you've got to take a look at them because I think it's just there's money to be made there. There's fun to be had.
Definitely fun to be had. I tease all of our guests about Toncoin. You're not alone, Mr. Bill. It's just a fun thing to say out loud. I know there's got to be a few Toncoin hodlers out there in the audience. Hey, it's climbing the ranks, so somebody likes it out there. Mr. Bill. But let's go to number 2 in the market cap, number 1 in a lot of your hearts, listeners. It is ETH. A little bit smaller this time than it was at a week ago. Last week, we were a little bit north of 3K, 30.73 to be precise. This week, a little bit shy of 29.5, 29.46. Puts us down a whopping 127 handles net show to show. The high came pretty much during our show last week, 3,080. The low was a little bit back on Friday, actually. Back on Friday at 29.07. So an interesting range out there on the week, listeners. In terms of vol, what does that mean for vol? Kind of a similar story to what we saw playing out there in Bitcoin, kind of treading water. We have weekly vol literally unched. 59 last week, 59 coming into start of this week, so no change there. Going out a month, it was a 62.5, so still frothy. A little bit juicier than Bitcoin, which is historically how we saw ETH tend to shape up. It was structurally more volatile than Bitcoin. That did reverse a little bit for a while, and that was kind of fascinating to watch. Now we are still back to ETH leading the dance, if by only about 10 points. Well, still closing the gap a little bit. 65 right now on, excuse me, that's a 180-day vol. On the 30-day vol, 62.5 last week, 60 this week. Going out 6 months, I gave you a spoiler already. We were at a 65 this week, 66 2/3 a week ago. Mr. Bill, I know you love yourself the number 2 on our list. I was only teasing you about the toncoin earlier. I know your real favorite is ETH. What was catching your eye out there on the ETH front this week?
Well, again, I've been focusing a little bit more on the Ethereum Classic. That was something that we talked about in our last episode. You know, Ethereum, like all cryptos, has definitely part of the risk-on composure, the risk-on as an asset class. And so while we've seen, again, Ethereum pull back just a little bit, you know, its high was around 4,001, 4,002 near the high right before the halving that we talked about with Bitcoin. And now it's pulled back to, I have 29.27 on my chart. So a nice pullback. Again, I think things got a little bit ahead of themselves technically, not fundamentally. But it is again, interesting that there's more and more conversation like with Solana and some of these other ecosystems that are, you know, talk about first mover adoption, right? Just a few minutes ago with Bitto. And Ethereum had the first mover adoption in terms of a global operating system, right? The smart contract platform. And I'm just wondering out loud as I'm here on the podcast with you, you know, is Bitcoin losing its quote unquote first mover adoption? You cannot argue the, you know, billions of dollars that are locked up in time, you know, time value locked, money locked up in contracts. But, you know, it seems as though we did not make a high, you know, a newer high from its previous, you know, high in 2021. And, you know, I'm a little concerned about that, Mark.
Uh-oh, our hodler in chief, a little bit concerned. That's intriguing, sir. Let's see if we can find any evidence in the skew to back up that, Mr. Bill. Let's go out to the weekly skew first, and it's looking slightly more bearish this week in ETH than it was this time last week. Last show was -3/4, almost a full point to the dark side. This week about 3 1/3 points. So swinging slightly more bearish on the skew front, which again, whenever you're going to dip below that 3K level, that's probably going to happen. So not exactly surprising there. Going out about a month, we're at a -3.5, now only a -2. So coming in a little bit there, which is also interesting. And going all the way out 6 months, +3.25 this time last week. Pretty much the same this week, about a +3. So not much evolution out there. Let's see if there's some evolution on your other favorite product, Mr. Bill, which is Solana. That one also giving back a little this week as well. Almost a 152 on the show last week, 151.96 to be precise when we ended the show. And coming in to start the show today, 147.32, down a whopping 464 on the week. Of course, we do have some data on Solana. It's continuing to grow, listeners, as the options flow is continuing to grow out there again. Remember, we used to talk about Solana quite a bit on the show. Then, of course, all the FTX madness happened. It kind of really killed the Solana options market for a while. But whenever an underlying has an explosive move like Solana has over the past year, you're going to see some options action start to perk up out there again. That's exactly what we're seeing. So we can crunch a 7-day vol running for a while now, and that's pretty juicy, as you might imagine. Solana moves around a bit. It was a 93 on our show last week, 90.75 this week. We still need a little bit more OI to really start picking up over there on Dairy before we can crunch a little bit longer term vol and skew numbers. 7-day skew, same deal, was a +1 2/3 on the show last week, about -3.5 this week. So slinging a little bit to the dark side, which again makes sense. We are giving up some of the ghost. Mr. Bill, I know we've talked about Solana and Solana versus ETH in the past. What are your thoughts on what we're seeing out there in good old SOL this week, sir?
Well, I tell you, Mark, I have a whole new appreciation for Solana. Now, again, Solana, like Ethereum, has not made a new high since its 2021 high. Solana put in a high at $259.95 per token. The recent high was, I have it over here, say 204. Now it's trading 143. And this is the new play. Are you ready for the new play? I've given this a lot of thought because, and actually due to, spending time with you on the podcast, and that is, there's so many tokens, like individual stocks, to just like there are stocks in the S&P 500 or Russell 2000, QQQ. How do you keep track of all these cryptocurrencies? And so I'm going to take a top-down approach, and that is, first, I'm going to stop. The first stop is the ecosystem. So like these layer protocol, the rails that this stuff moves on. And Ethereum is in the ecosystem, right? Layer 1, smart contracts, operating system. But there's there's 8 more tokens in the ecosystem. And I figured this is going to keep it simple, stupid when it comes to investing in these tokens. Because why has Solana picked up so much progress? It's because things are being built on it, right? And Bonk and these other crazy cryptocurrencies, these little meme tokens, are being on the Solana network. So I have a list of about 9 ecosystems, and Solana is one of them. So it's the Optimism protocol. And you know what? We don't have to go into all of these right now, but just say that Solana, if you're going to do a funnel, if you're going to invest in a funnel of crypto, let's do the very layer 1 at top, which is like Bitcoin layer 1, Ethereum layer 1. And these other protocols like Solana, we need to take a hard look at these and maybe consider dollar cost averaging these things, because I think Solana is really a thing. It's not a cryptocurrency. It makes a bad currency because it's almost too fast, which is why they're having so many problems with their network. But it would make other good projects. There's other tools that can be built on a Solana network, and I'm not going to forget about this one. I've diminished my interest in it because I was just a pure Bitcoin Ethereum guy. But a Solana, man, they're doing stuff on it. They're building stuff, and I think we need to keep this on the top 10 list.
Interesting. So you're warm turning a little bit on Solana. I know in the past you were a little bit, I think, shall we say, lukewarm, but it sounds like the warm turning out there. So you're coming to grips with Solana. I'm still trying to come to grips with your Nat Gas Bitcoin pairs trade from earlier. That was a hot one. All sorts of fun you're laying down here on the show this week, Mr. Bill. I'm going to run through a few other altcoin that I know you always have a couple in your back pocket. If you want to sprinkle those in there as well, feel free. XRP, I don't know why we keep tilting at this windmill every week on the show, Mr. Bill. XRP can't get out of its own way. It's scared of its own shadow. Almost 55 cents last week, 50 cents this week, down another pretty much nickel. Every time it catches any bid, it gives it right back up, right back down to 50 cents. It's almost like we're just abusing the poor XRP holders by breaking it down on the show every week. So maybe we'll hold off. It does seem kind of depressing, but I would like to see some movement out there for you folks who've been waiting patiently for years now. It doesn't seem like this week is the week. A Doge, you already talked about it, 15.5 cents last week, 14.8 cents this week. So that obviously contributing to it giving up its number 8 spot to toncoin. Gotta start breaking down toncoin on this list pretty soon. Bill's gonna get mad at us if we don't include toncoin, his favorite asset out there. Litecoin, 81 and a third last week, 80.8 this week, so down about a little over half a point on the week. Cardano, 46 cents last week, 44 cents this week, giving up a little over 2 cents. Polkadot, 7.21 last week, 6.68. This week down a little over half a buck. And everyone's favorite Shiba Inu coming in from a whopping 1,000,024 to 1,000,023. I got a question for you I want to ask in the crypto questions. But before we get there, Mr. Bill, you've always got a few other fun altcoin burning a hole in your back pocket, or in this case, in your wallet, sir. What's floating around in your wallet you want to share with the folks?
All right, well, I'll tell you, I'm just going to go back to, again, how do we, if blockchain and cryptocurrency, if this space is like AI, like the future, the future, like this is it, all officer down, hands on deck, this is it. The question is, it's so easy to get distracted by other shiny objects like toncoin and Dogecoin and Shiba Inu and Bonk and Costco $1.50 hot dog. Like, it's fun to take a few percentage of your winnings, whatever you want to play around with that. But again, if we're going to approach it like mature investment advisors, mature investors, right? We have to compare it to the S&P 500. We have to say, okay, in the S&P 500, there's 40 broad sectors: gas utilities, electric utilities, software, hardware, real estate. There's just so many ways to break it down. And let's do the same thing with crypto, with blockchain. Let's take a look at the sectors, and then from above that, another level up, let's take a look at the ecosystem that things are being built on. And right now, that's Optimism, Arbitrum, Polygon, and Solana. And I'm just going to throw in one called the Graph in that one, because that's like a internet indexing system that keeps track of like where all this stuff is. And so I'm going to work on a top-down approach rather than on an individual token approach per se. So for my new goal on the personal side is, let's look at the ecosystem, get a small portfolio of ecosystem. I just set it and forget it. And then from there, we'll move on to the sectors, just like the 40 broad sectors of the S&P 500. We'll dig down deeper into the sectors like DeFi, network tokens, stable coins, metaverse and gaming, interoperability. Because boy, if you're on Twitter and you're following this conversation with central bank digital currencies, it's all about interoperability in between all these currencies globally. And I know everybody's pumping up, talking about Japan market making new highs, but they've also made that currency has gotten crushed. That's down 71% from the high. So that's what's driving their higher equity prices. So there's a lot of ways to do this, and I just want to do it smarter rather than just throwing money at Bonk coin, Taylor Swift coin, and Peppy coin. Like, there's got to be something better than that. We're better than that, Mark.
How dare you disparage the Taylor Swift coin, sir? How dare you? Swifty is going to come out of the woodwork for you. While you're hiding from them, let's keep on rolling into a little bit of the old crypto questions.
You've got questions about crypto. Who doesn't? It's time to find out the answers to your crypto questions.
All right, everybody, welcome to the crypto questions. And Mr. Bill, I wanted to pick your brain on this because this is our question of the week right now. You are our resident crypto optimist, I think, to put it mildly out there. I believe you called the end of the crypto winter a while ago, well before we saw the actual end. But you know what? You were eventually right on that call as well. And you get the bonus of being early to the party out there. So definitely our resident Bitcoin and indeed crypto and ETH and all these other toncoin, of course, optimists out there. So I say all that to set the stage for right now, because our question of the week right now is, do you think that the options on the Bitcoin ETFs will be approved this year? Obviously, we saw a lot of brouhaha about the SEC approving these back in January. Here we are now recording this in mid-May, and still a big goose egg on the options front for these. I just came back from the options industry conference last week. I talked to a lot of people on the exchange and broker and industry front about this exact topic. You folks can hear all that hitting the network soon. So again, another reason why you should be subscribed to the full network. A lot of crypto and options on Bitcoin ETF talk coming. So stay tuned for that. So Bill, I have my thoughts on this. Our audience obviously has some thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts. You're our resident crypto optimist. Do you think we will see options on the Bitcoin ETFs approved this year? Very simple, yes or no, sir.
Yes.
Interesting. Why, sir? Again, is it just the optimist in you?
No, it isn't necessarily the optimist in me. I mean, let's we had talked about the Bitcoin ETF before, and it was my opinion that the first one through the door gets shot, right? And that was the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. They've been pushing to convert from like a closed-end grantor trust to an ETF for as long as I can remember. The first one through the door, it gets approved, and what happens? Fidelity, Van Eck, Guggenheim, like all these companies came into the Bitcoin ETF space so quickly. ProShares, Invesco, Wisdom Tree, Franklin, Fidelity, like all these companies just came rushing through the door once it was approved. And the billions of dollars of AUM that these firms, BlackRock, the billions of dollars that these firms have been able to capture and actually charge a decent manual management fee, where a lot of these ETFs was a race to zero in terms of, the annual management fee. I do think that now the industry has whetted their appetite for AUM. It has whetted their appetite for activity and volume. And frankly, I'm I'm not going to say I'm surprised that it hasn't been approved yet because, again, we just got the ETFs in January of this year. But boy, if we don't get these options by 12/31/2024, I'm going to be really surprised because I just can't help but think that Fidelity and BlackRock isn't on the phone with the SEC saying, "Hey guys, we need to get this done because we want to keep money here. We want to attract AUM." Blockchain and crypto, like this is an AI, our numbers are way up in terms of AUM. So I think, yes, I think now you have big gorillas, the big elephants in the room that are pushing for this. And it's no longer, it's more mainstream almost than it's ever been before. So I'm very excited. And I think it will happen this year.
I hope you're certainly right, sir. And I'm with you in the sense that I never short sell the ability of the exchanges or some of the big houses out there to see gold in them, our hills, and want to go after it. And there certainly is gold in the volume on these things. I will say, coming out of the options industry conference and my conversations down there, I came away a little more skeptical on the prospects for this. A lot of people said it's not even a question of when on these, but it's a question of if.
Interesting.
It seems like the SEC very down on the prospect of options, trading options on a Bitcoin ETF. So you think we're kind of past this in 2024, Bill, that, you can approve an underlying, but buying a put on said underlying to hedge, that's a bridge too far. You'd think the regulators would have moved past that in the year 2024, but apparently not, Bill. Everything old is new again this year, including being very, very circumspect about approving options on the Bitcoin ETF. So I unfortunately would have to vote no. Seems like our audience agrees, Mr. Bill, 75% saying no. I guess some of them have already checked out some of our early conversations from OIC. Only 25% in your camp. I hope you're right, Bill. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong on that.
Well, it's really interesting because, again, we can talk about trying to scale options and make money, but there's also the concept of a static yield. I mean, what is a covered call except basically you want to take a look at the static yield between today and expiration Friday of May 17th or June 17th or June 21st. Like there's just a way of looking at options as an income generator, right? So we don't care that much about the upside. We just want to collect that static yield. And now the way I figure it is that we're getting more and more cryptocurrency income ETFs like MAXI. It's the Simplified Bitcoin Strategy Plus Income ETF. This thing has a yield of 23%. I mean, what is that? Like, where does that come from? And we need to dive into this because now we're seeing more and more Bitcoin yield ETFs come on in the space. And so when I think that there already has to be that, like we can't get too far ahead of our space in the ETF world without having a corresponding option and legit derivative space. So, maybe the CBOE is just waiting until they get their paperwork. I'm sure they're already got their paperwork in order, right? And they're going to be collecting their small royalty for collecting the CBOE Bitcoin VIX options or whatever. Like, it's just a matter of time, and I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I'm just kind of grasping at straws here, but if we already have the approval of the Bitcoin ETF, I just don't see why the option stuff is just so difficult to put into effect.
No one ever said it was rational, Bill.
Right. So true. Sorry about that.
How dare you inject rhyme and reason and rationality into a clearly irrational debate that is going on right now. Well, unfortunately, Mr. Bill, that music means we've come to the end of another epic sojourn through the world of all things crypto derivatives. Before we go, if people are liking this optimism you're putting down, maybe they want to come in and just join you in your embrace of toncoin. Where should they go? What should they do?
Well, sure. Visit us at cenaclecapital.com. That's CENACLE, cenaclecapital.com. But I don't want to get too far down the road of toncoin. But we were talking about Bitcoin versus natural gas, and our pairs trade right now. Just as a note, a little side note, that our pairs trade with Bitcoin versus gold. Gold is currently favored over Bitcoin. So there's that, and that pairs trade has worked out really well. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves with Bitcoin versus nat gas or nat gas versus toncoin. Let's just look at Bitcoin and gold and just see if there's a way to make money there a little bit more rationally than Taylor Swift coin.
Ooh, Natcast versus toncoin. Now you got a pairs trade that's perking my interest. There you go. Now you're talking about just don't sleep at night at all.
Total
Pierce
degen.
trade.
I know.
Forget about sleep. Sleep is overrated. You got the Nat Gas toncoin 24/7 Pierce trade. Why is your phone blowing up? It's my Pierce trade. It's going crazy.
If you with technical analysis, you can pair trade everything. Like it's okay. It's like we don't care as long as you can get data for it. We're traders are that. That's the way we roll.
Well, Mr. Bill, if folks want to discuss all these fun pairs trades and a whole bunch more with you directly, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, again, cenaclecapital.com or give our offices a call at 847-686-4800 and leave a message. We'll get back to you shortly, and then we'll arrange to get you on our mailing list for our newsletters and carry on the conversation for those left behind 401ks and Roth IRAs that are just sitting in cash, losing money every month due to inflation. So maybe we can get those working again for you in a logical and systematic way.
There you go. Check them out. Cenacle Capital, CENACLE Capital, all one word. Billy, you can just disregard all those toncoin tweets we sent your way during the show, which I'm sure will get you some very intriguing people coming your way on the Twitter front. If you want to find out more about all this data we're crunching on the show here, listeners, amberdata.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. Of course, that's going to do it for us on the network today. Back again tomorrow as we roll out the old Pro Q&A hot seat. I got our old buddy, Mr. Scott Nations, joining us tomorrow to tackle all your questions. He's been known to get dragged into the crypto vol waters in the past. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen again. If you want to check that out for yourselves, you want to participate in said Q&A or check out the, 150 others we have up there for you, as well as, of course, a couple of hundred closing in on Options Oddities episodes as well. Only one place to go, the optionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. Gotta get on out of here. Back again, like we said, tomorrow, Pro Q&A. Back again with some educational content on Wednesday with Options Bootcamp, which a lot of listeners of this show should be checking out. Then back again on Thursday with the Option Block and, of course, TWIFO, where we do touch on crypto to a decent degree usually on the show. Friday, volatility views, and then back again for our pro folks with Options Oddities. Then we're back again next Monday, another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.